Hello, everyone. Welcome in to Living with Intention Live. I am April Wyatt, if you're not familiar with me, and I am here to talk about the messy middle today. I hope that you're showing up curious about this because many people don't talk about this. Talk about when things don't go so well, maybe even mentally, physically, whether it is your own personal life or your own professional career. We get a little muddled, a little tied into things, and our minds tell us it needs to look a certain way. And that's when we start to really decompress from that. So, this is where I love to come in to talk about how we can sit with that messiness. It's so uncomfortable, isn't it? It's so uncomfortable. But as a somatic performance coach, when we learn to just ease our mind a little bit, take a breath, lean into it just a little and listen. Listen to what our bodies are telling us. Listen to the deeper nuances of what's really happening here, that breaking open, some people call it, or the dark night of the soul, right? We see that there are some golden nuggets there. And that is why this live discussion is so important. That's the key to today's conversation. And let me tell you, with these two ladies, it's going to be real, it's going to be raw, and it's going to be fun because that's who they are. And they know each other also personally. So that's another fun aspect of it. And I just also want to say that giving yourself permission too, right, when you're experiencing some messiness is important. Giving yourself permission to just pause, to take a breath, to remember this is part of learning more about yourself in the process. And being that said, this is how I am able to support others, and that's through my Bali retreat. It's coming up October 10th through the 17th. And here is where people come together to pause and experience some different tools and technologies of being in our body, of breathing, of having some different types of movement meditation. So we're not just sitting still and being silent for hours at a time. No, that does not work with most people's brains, right? They're always on. So we need to move, we need to breathe, we need to allow that nervous system to settle. That's what is about nervous system regulation. And through this Bali retreat, we can be able to pause. And so that way we can rise above the noise of our own minds, the noise of the distractions in our day. And when you return from this retreat, I guarantee you, you'll feel more grounded. You'll have more clarity. You'll be more present and know what direction you want to take. And so that is, again, October 10th through the 17th. I only have 6 spots left. We're over halfway full. If that is something that you feel that you can see yourself in Bali, that you want to find that ease for yourself, please reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. Even if it's not Bali, even if it's something that you would like to work through and ease that tension and that mental overwhelm or brain fog, that is my expertise as well. So please reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. And speaking of being able to be for other people, be in a community, I love to share about the Hounds of Business. And that is Mike Asherbranner, the founder of the Hounds of Business. And what I love about this community is bringing together amazing professionals, such as the two individuals that we're going to be experiencing today. Jennifer is one of the members of the Hounds of Business, and Lachelle has been a great partner with us. And we love to work together and build that community of support because we don't have to do it alone. I say going solo is a no-go. Having an amazing community, having people that see your value and want to amplify you, that is the key. We all want warm leads and connections with other people. So I highly encourage you to reach out to Mike Asherbranner or myself, and we can connect you with a discovery call for sure. So being that said, I just want to also talk about how our two guests is Lachelle Adkins, right? She's known as America's Supermom, and she brings a very deeply lived experience of burnout and depression and how she was able to rebuild, right? And actually build a community from that. It's such amazing. She is such an amazing person. And also Jennifer Thompson, she too has worked through the messy middle, and she has a great gift of storytelling as she's brought forward her I Am magazine with her sister. So she'll talk more about that. So I'm so grateful to bring them up here on the stage, and I will allow them to introduce themselves to you. So welcome in, Lachelle and Jennifer. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having us. I'm excited about the conversation.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. Indeed, this is going to be a very exciting conversation and opportunity to share what we have lived.
Yes. And, we just all have experienced in some shape or form that messy middle. And you two bring such keen awareness because of your own experiences. But before we get into all of that, can you just share a little bit about yourself and why this conversation is so important to you? Lachelle, do you mind going first?
Absolutely. I just want to thank you first for bringing us here about this conversation. For me, I think it's something that many of us struggle with, and it's not a popular topic. However, we embrace it on a regular basis and, in quiet conversations behind the scenes in private rooms. But being able to share about this openly, I think is really important. But I am Lachelle Atkins, as you mentioned before, known as America's Supermom. My husband and I have 15 children, and I went through 13 years of depression and 3 hospitalizations. And I'm just passionate about being able to share my story and strategies to help other women avoid what I went through. As a result of sharing my story and being open with my experiences, it has just opened up so many opportunities for me now to be an author, a speaker, a podcast host, and a TV producer. I believe that each time that I have continued to grow in my comfort with being able to talk about uncomfortable topics, it just continues to open up platforms for me to be able to shine a light on a lot of the topics that are in the dark that other people are suffering with in silence. So I'm excited to be here and glad to be a part of the conversation.
Oh, we are so grateful to have you here with us, Lachelle. Yes, looking forward to that conversation. And Jennifer.
Hi, again. I'm Jennifer Thompson. I am the editor in chief for I Am magazine, and at heart, I am a storyteller. I like to make very light things of things. I just have very good humor on things, and I look at life with a GPS kind of eyes. Wherever you encounter an obstacle, you got to treat it as an opportunity and just recalculate. This is a great opportunity for us to start talking. It's very interesting because we just started a new project, becoming a decision, and that talks about the messy middle, because it is true, when we make a decision, that's when we start becoming what we want to be. And so this
Mm.
perfect timing for this conversation. I'm looking forward to everything that is coming up.
Yes, let's start with that. That was a perfect intro into this conversation, Jennifer, about making that choice, right? When we realize that no one else can dig us out of this hole or whatever this messy middle that we're experiencing, and it can be very hard. I'm not going to say, oh, don't, like, gaslight yourself about it. Yeah, we find ourselves in a hole or in this messy middle, and it can be challenging to recognize that, oh, it's my own responsibility to get myself out of here.
Indeed.
I Yeah, I agree with that. I think, because we don't have a lot of these conversations, in my case, I didn't realize that I had a choice. So I was
Mm.
raised as an only child with a high performance background. And, the thing that I remember is always following a model from somebody else. So even though I was a high performer, you had a certain set of guidelines that you had to follow in order to get an A or be on honor roll. And so you really don't take time to think about some of the things that you're doing. You're just following somebody else's standards or guideposts or whatever that is. And so I think really taking some time to reflect and recognize that we do have a choice is a powerful place to be, because many people go through things because their parents did it a certain way, or their spouse or friends or coworkers. And it's sometimes hard to break out of that system or routine, realizing that you can choose to go a different way. And there's a lot of fear around the unknown,
Mm.
doing things without having a guide for it, or with the fear of failure and things like that. I mean, so many different issues when it comes to that. But I think the main thing is recognizing that, you do have a choice. And
Mhm.
having that awareness was a game changer for me.
Mm. Can you just, walk us through just very briefly, like, what was that turning point?
Mhm.
The key things that led up to that, you being hospitalized, and
Mhm.
then how you had that awareness of having that choice.
Yeah, it really happened after my last hospitalizations, because I realized after that situation that I was afraid of this pattern continuing. This was my third
Mm.
hospitalization. Is it going to be a fourth one, a fifth one, and so on? And I realized that, I really wasn't in a place of exercising my power, because I was blaming my kids and spouse and circumstances around my situation. And I was not in a place to where I had felt prior to these hospitalizations of feeling comfortable of looking in the mirror around some things that I wasn't willing to admit to myself. But after that last hospitalization, I realized that if I don't do something different, then it is going to be a fourth or a fifth, because I could see that there already was a pattern. And the common denominator was me. As much as I wanted to blame other people, I was the common denominator in every situation. So from that, I realized that I had to do something different in order for me to break the cycle, so to speak.
What was that? What did you choose to do differently?
So I stopped putting my story or my experience in a box and believing that, oh, this happened, I can put this away and just be a different person. I had to learn how to embrace that uncomfortable truth around my story and learn to look at the lessons that it was teaching me in order for me not to repeat the same mistakes. So at that time, I got off social media. I cut my hair. I just had to get back to knowing who I was because I had lost who I was throughout my journey, not knowing what my favorite color was or, why I did certain things. I really wasn't confident around hearing my own voice. So I had to do
Mm.
some things to get back to knowing, who I was and what were the things that excited me, that I didn't like, and all that. It was a journey that I had to take in order to get back to a place to where I could really have a good foundation to build on.
That is so interesting to me, Lachelle, that you said, get comfortable with your own voice. And
Mhm.
here you are, right? You are speaking, you're shouting from the rooftops,
Mhm.
supporting other professionals. And I absolutely love that you chose you.
Mhm.
Michelle, what makes you, or what do you think that made you not see yourself?
I did a lot of people pleasing, where I was always a big thinker, visionary, but I felt like I had to be the one doing all the things in order for things to work out. So a little bit of perfectionism was there. And then I really attached my value to how I performed.
Mm.
And even, with my kids and spouse, I mean, it was just really a lot of things that were outside of my control. I put a lot of my attention and energy into. And so when I learned to scale back and kind of recognize what I could control, that really changed the game for me because I was burning myself out doing things that just did not make sense, So it's like, burning the candle at both ends, not taking a break, not getting help, saying yes to things that I'm not gifted in because I just wanted to show up and be of value. It was requiring more work of me and it was taken away from my family or my spouse because I was so concerned about getting that validation around my worth and value from other people rather than coming from a place of strength for myself.
Mm.
I get that. I think a
Mhm.
lot of us do the same thing. We are always looking for somebody else to tell us how great we are,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but we forget to give ourselves the value of the things that we bring to the table. And I think that's one of the main reasons why we get into that messy middle is that we forget to see ourselves as a valuable person, somebody that has
Mhm.
gifts, and we start taking for granted um, our our value. We're start giving
Mhm.
it away, and
Mm.
once you start giving your time away, once you start giving your gifts away for free, then other people tend to take them for granted as well. And
Mhm.
while you're looking or searching for that validation, you're doing completely the opposite by just giving too much of yourself without really, just searching for that value. That value is going to come if you're research with it.
So true.
Exactly.
Well, and I think, it ends up where, um, we believe we're helping people
Hmm.
when we're giving our value away a lot of times. And one thing about that is it's very safe to feel that you're giving away your value, but people mistreat you because they don't understand what your value is.
Hmm.
So when you are very aware of, the strengths that you bring to the table, that's a different conversation.
Hmm.
I tell a lot of my clients, if you are a jeweler, for example, you're not going to go around giving away your jewelry to people to prove how valuable it is. But we do it all the time,
Mm.
and so what happens is we are speaking to the wrong people a lot of times they don't understand, or maybe they're not at the right phase to appreciate the value that we have. And I had to learn that early as a coach, because, people, when they come to you for coaching, a lot of times, I'm just using myself as an example, we misdiagnose ourselves. Oh,
Mhm.
I just need help with time management. But then as you go through assessments, you find out, well, they're afraid of rejection. They don't have any boundaries. They don't want to tell people no. And so a lot of those things, if I just went to them with a prescription, so to speak, of time management, they wouldn't appreciate it, and it wouldn't change their situation, because they're not dealing with the root cause.
Mhm.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes, and that root cause of not of giving our value away because of the people pleasing, or not realizing that we have a choice
Mhm.
and that we have a voice to say, thank you, but no thank you, or redirecting. But I'm really, really wanting to get over to Jennifer and have Jennifer share, right, your point, that pivotal point we talked about, with Lachelle so beautifully described, or it's kind of like that beautiful chaos, right, that comes through, that after, when we get through it, then we can look back and say, wow, right? That the temperance is what makes us stronger. Moving through that fire. And this is like how glass is made, right? It's little grains of sand.
Mhm.
And the temperance of the heat um, creates the glass. And then you can see more clearly. So I like to remind people of that. But when we're in it, it's very challenging to see clearly. But it's that choice that Lachelle talked about. So, Jennifer, can you please share your pivotal point? What led up to that, and then what was that choice or that awareness shift for you?
Um, First, I want to share with you that I have always had a very strong personality, and very open with absolutely everything that I say. I say what I mean what I say. And that's just the way that I have always been. But I find myself in a situation where it completely broke me. And as strong as I thought I was at the bottom of who I was. I stopped being who I was to try to make somebody else feel better, to try to lift that person and make them feel comfortable about themselves. I put myself below so they can feel better.
Mm.
I did everything for them. And eventually I realized, hold on just a second, I'm getting nothing out of this other than hurt and abuse and unhappiness. And I want to tell you that this happens to everybody. It doesn't matter how strong. I remember my friends saying, I cannot believe this has happened to you. You, that you have been always so strong, always so determined, always so outspoken. I can't believe you went through this. Every person can fall into a situation like this. And you get to that point where you stare yourself in the mirror and say, first, this is not who I am. Second, this is not who I want to be.
Mm.
And that's when you make a decision. And you know how iron, sometimes they have to melt it and it comes red hot like that. And then they pound on it and it becomes stronger.
Mm-hmm.
That is what the messy middle is. When you're in that fire and it's boiling hot and you are just melting away, everything inside you is tied up, and they take you out and they start hammering and hammering and hammering. And all of a sudden, you are stronger than when you got put in the fire. And that doesn't mean that you were not strong before. It's just a process. We all have to go through it. And that's why I say becoming is a decision.
Mm.
You have to be aware of that moment. And when I got to that moment, I took my pencil and paper and I made a list. a list of what is acceptable, of what it's not, what my boundaries is. What am I going to take, give, and remove myself from in the future? And I go by a list all the time. It is amazing. You can ask my grandchildren, my friends, even my husband. Make a list. It doesn't matter what point they are in an intersection in their life. I always tell them, make a list. All right, you don't know if this is for you? Make a list. What does it offer? What is good? What is bad? Make a list. I'm the list maker, always. Except for groceries. I don't do that. That's my husband's job.
Oh, that is just so key. And it seems so simple, though. It seems so simple. And I think what gets in the way is people are distracted by things. You know, you say, sit down, make a list, make that choice. Keep showing up for yourself every day. That's what it's all about, is what choices are you making for yourself right now, today, that are for you, that make you feel good, or that it's something a little easier to either accomplish or easier to shift just a little bit. Right? We're not asking because, you know, if you go too hard, too fast, quickly, right out of the gate, it's going to, if it's not built on that self-regulation, that self-awareness factor of why am I doing this for myself versus I need to do this to get there. You see the difference in that, right? And that's what keeps that momentum, that keeps the steadiness of us keeping to show up for ourselves. That's the iron sharpening iron, as Jennifer was talking about. Every time it's hit, right, it strengthens it. Well, every time we tune into ourselves and ask, does this feel good? Am I making this decision because I think the other person wants this, or to make other people feel better? I too was a fawner, right? As I grew up in a very dysfunctional family. My mother was disabled. My father was a gambler and a narcissist. And so I was the one wanting to make everybody feel good or feel better, so that way I would feel safe. And when I realized that, it took me decades, but I realized it. This is the messy middle. It seems like when we get to a certain point, would you both ladies agree? It's about, you know, late 30s, 40s, you know, things just feel kind of wonky. It's not working out as jumping through the hoops before fulfilled us. That things are starting to kind of fall apart a little bit. That scaffolding is very shaky because it was built on false promises that we made to ourselves, or as Jennifer said, for somebody else. And even Michelle, the perfectionism, wanting it to be perfect to show the value.
Yeah. And I think also we're not given accurate information. You know, during a time when I was younger, you know, what happens in this house stays in this house. That kind of mentality was still going on. And, you know, also with the industry that I was in. So I met my husband in college and I got my degree in marketing, but went to a prestigious business school for that. And there's a lot around showing up and doing what is required. I was a minority in a lot of my classes, not only for the color of my skin, but also as a woman. So I think the idea of hiding some of your problems or things that may not be embraced by other people, you know, that's just what I was groomed to do. You know, you just have to show up. You're a woman, suck it up. You know, some of these things don't be real feminine around this. This is business. You got to, dress the part and be the part. And a lot of those things can continue to perpetuate beliefs that are not positive.
Yes.
I know, like, even in business, we embrace terms that I'm repelled by. I don't even subscribe to, like imposter syndrome, or
Mhm.
where you understand that it's embraced for you to feel inadequate. It's okay. We talk about it like it's a thing. And it's like, no one really should have to go through that when you are in whatever field, right? If you are having these warning signs for yourself, then that is an indicator that there's something that you need to be doing. Is it just not the right position for you, or do you need more training? But I feel like a lot of times, I was taught to figure it out. If I was in this position, I could figure it out, I can grow. And that really was a problem for me, because being a stay-home mom was totally off script for me. I was
Mm.
on the track to be a corporate attorney, and, had always been successful academically. So this really was a total 180 that I was not even prepared for. And then feeling that I was inadequate at that, and um, outside of script. So I think some of these things we internalize when, if we just had information from other people, then we could be strategic around how we deal with some of the challenges or the life transitions that we experience.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And because we feel that we have to carry the burden ourselves,
Hmm.
that self-judgment,
Mhm.
that really keeps us siloed. It keeps the fear. I think you talked about the fear, Lachelle, of that pattern, that repeated pattern that would have kept you in the hospital, and then you chose, right, to shift that.
Mhm.
But absolutely, I totally agree with that. Jennifer, I saw you nodding, and I know that you probably have something to contribute to that aspect for sure.
I was listening to Lachelle say, our parents or our society expectations, you probably stay at home. Um, we are Depression is not something that happens in Hispanic families either. I mean, that's what Fabuloso is. So you're depressed, get them up, clean the whole house, rub it hard, and get over it. You get rid of sadness with that. um and it's, when you say, oh, I'm sad or I'm depressed or whatever, I don't know why didn't I, it was this societal expectations that especially women are put into this box of what they have to do, what they're expected to do, what they're expected to sacrifice, and what they're expected to keep their mouth shut and not complain. And these are things that nowadays we are seeing the lid open up, and women starting to become more free, starting to say, you know what, I don't want to be in this box. I do not want to be framed into your little society expectations of what I should be. And that's good. And I love it because I have daughters, I have granddaughters. I don't want them to go through what, the little box puts you in,
Hmm.
and what is expected for you as a woman to, but shut up and look pretty. um that's not, or oh, she's asking for it, look at what she's wearing. This is unacceptable in this, in this, and women are beginning to demand respect and boundaries on their space. Can you imagine a man to being treated the same way?
Mm-mm.
Would have been unmentionable. But women are put in these positions where they have to shut up. You want to keep your job? Don't say anything.
Mm.
And the Me Too movement came out, and all these things started to come out. So now now women are finally saying, let's talk about it. Let's stop hiding. And the strength that women had before by this living by this rigid environment is what catapult us as women to live now and making your boundaries, standing up and saying, look at me, respect me. Here are my boundaries. Let me tell you where you fit in my story. You need to control your narrative. You need to make that decision. You really need to start saying, okay, who I want to become. And today I'm going to make that decision to do that. And I'm not going to say that it's easy, because it is tough. You're going to encounter obstacles all the time. My only advice to you is that to make sure that every single obstacle, you treat it as an opportunity.
Mm. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Every obstacle is to be treated like an opportunity, because it's showing up for us to learn and really learn more about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
As Lachelle, you so mentioned, your stories, both of your stories are so rich and deep. This is why I knew this conversation would go in that messy middle. And when you're in the messy middle, as you shared earlier, for those who are just tuning in, that you were in the hospital and that the fear was keeping you right from that, and being in that space, then you realize that you could choose, choose that. But and the challenge of that too, for us to learn how to show up for ourselves. That's what you had said. I had to teach myself, I had to learn. So for those who are tuning in, I so appreciate all the people that are shining for us today. So thank you so much for the comments, everybody. But I want to go back to, how can we share just a tip or some kind of takeaway for those who are in the messy middle, who are like, yeah, it's easy for you to say, you're already out of it. I don't have any clear glass or sword, yet. They're in it and they don't know the first step. What would you share with them, that first step?
For me, I would say it's hard to see the picture if you're in the frame. We can always focus on what we feel we don't have. But I had to learn that I already was enough. So going to the place of really embracing who I was and not feeling like, oh, they picked me because my hair was straight, or I had on the right outfit, or I said the right thing. There was a lot of my upbringing that was kind of molded around being the best version of whatever. And when you learn to realize that you already are enough, then you don't feel that you have to seek outside yourself in order to complete yourself. So I think that is really important for people to understand. And when you're honest, I've learned a lot through my business training that, it's all about the story, the narrative that people can create around a product or a service in order for you to feel that is the thing that you need. So understanding that, learning that everybody is struggling with the same thing. We just market it differently, or we talk about it differently. And so realizing that I am just like the next person allows me to be more honest around the narrative that I want to share, around the truth and transparency, because that's the thing that really connects with your power and allows you to connect with other people.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, Lachelle, the transparency.
Yeah.
Because then when we are transparent and vulnerable, then people see that we are human too, and we're more approachable. They lean in and listen a little bit more, and it's not in a victim sort of way. It's more of, this is what I'm experiencing, and this is how I'm seeing myself now, or these are the steps that I'm going to take, or but sharing, breaking open, sharing what you're going through, because so many people are experiencing this messy middle, and they get caught in that cycle of, what's wrong with me? I've done this, I have these degrees, or I keep doing my best, yet I'm not getting anywhere with this. And then they tend to get entangled, right, in that messy middle, and they can't find their way out. Yeah. So Jennifer, for you, what is something that you find that is very supportive for those who are listening right now, who might find themselves in that messy middle?
In reality, I think that, like I said earlier, you create that own messy middle when you forget to love yourself and to value yourself. And we do it constantly. So my first suggestion is step back and put yourself first. Like on the plane when they say, blah, 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 the mask will come down, put it on yourself before you help somebody else. That applies in all walks of life. So when you're feeling overwhelming and you're feeling like, okay, I don't know if I can handle this, step back. Everything around you can come second. But if you're not okay, how can you help anybody? And while you're figuring who you are, don't make yourself someone that somebody else wants you to be.
Yeah.
Find exactly who you are. Love you and accept yourself, because there is one thing, and I've mentioned this before in a couple of conversations, I think with you, April, maybe. We are not a golden coin to be liked by everyone.
How so? Let's unpack that a little bit more, because I know Lachelle's like, She's like, I see that look on your face, Lachelle.
Right.
Unpack that a little bit more for us.
You cannot please everybody. You cannot be everybody's cup of tea. You will find the tribe that is meant to be with you. But if you are changing like a chameleon all the time based on who you are, so you can fit their narrative, then you are no longer controlling your own story.
Yeah.
You are letting somebody else control your narrative.
Yeah.
Don't worry about if somebody likes you or not. They're not meant to. Either they like you or they don't. You move on. Your life is not going to fall apart if they do or not.
Yeah. Yes. And also, I want to say that when, we are that golden coin, and when we compromise our own values for other people, we're tarnishing. We're not as shiny, right? We're not living from that. And this is my business name, Living with Intention, right? We're not living with intention. We're living for that, to receive value from other people. And that's the external, right? We need to keep that more internal, that love, as you said, Jennifer, right? And even if we weren't raised to love ourselves, that conditional love, that's how I was raised. Oh, you don't do this, you'll be punished. Oh, you got to clean the house. I'm 6 years old. Clean the house, doing dishes, right? And so learning that, right, that was very ingrained in me. And then when I realized, hey, I want more for myself. I am worthy of more. I'm not here for breadcrumbs. I'm here to sit down and eat the whole bread, like the little red hen at the end of the story I talked about in another live show. So yes, Lachelle, before we go into getting towards the end here, I just want to hear your reflections on what Jennifer just brought in to the conversation.
Yeah, I really love that she shared that, because, that's a scarcity mindset. When we feel like we have to be the best or the only, that we have to really serve everybody. It really is scarcity mindset. And, I was a victim of that for a long time. And then another thing that comes to mind is, an empty trophy. I
Mm.
had a podcast some years ago, and one of the gentlemen shared that where you're seeking for this reward, this accolade, and when you acquire it, you still are empty. You're not getting out of that trophy what you thought it was going to provide for you. And the reason that happens is we are following somebody else's script, what they believe we should accomplish or acquire. And when we achieve it, we're still empty inside because it wasn't truly our desire. We didn't give ourselves the grace to really be able to figure out if that was really what we wanted or not. And
Mhm.
so I think it's important, again, to do that self reflection and understanding that, we can leverage our strengths and our weaknesses because, when we learn to collaborate with other people who are strong in areas where we're weak, we can have a lot more fuller life and business because we are created to be with other people. We're not created to be alone. And when we learn to talk about the things that are keeping us up at night, the things
Mm.
that we're afraid to talk about, then we learn that there are so many opportunities that are out there for us to grow and connect with like minded people. I remember I've met Jennifer, it's been years ago during the pandemic.
Yeah, 2020.
So, it's been this journey of opening up the truth around our situations. We are co-authors in a best-selling book. I've been a part of the magazine. She's a producer on a network that we're on together. So I believe that you will find ways that you can open yourself up and you can continue that journey of opening up yourself when you're around
Mhm.
people that support you and continue to challenge you to keep sharing your narrative and understanding that this is a powerful place to be, whether the story is messy or not.
Mhm.
For sure. And then we realize that maybe it's not as messy as we thought it was.
Right.
Right, having that community of support, having, as you said, you've worked with Jennifer, and Jennifer, the wonderful work that you do with I Am Magazine. Yeah, let's just bring that in because it's so important to know that community, like I explained about the Hounds of Business, and having that community of support, collaborators such as you, Lachelle, and your business. It's such a beautiful blend. And why not have somebody who wants to support, who sees the value, that knows that you're a gold coin and they don't have to spend it. Oh, I love that. They see your value as the gold coin, as Jennifer said, and they don't feel like they're going to spend you. Right? That it's not a transaction connection. It's
Mhm.
more of a wow, this is real. This is Jennifer. This is Lachelle. This is how they're showing up. And I absolutely appreciate that. Yeah. So Jennifer, can you share a little bit about I Am Magazine and what's coming up for you with that?
Absolutely. Well, I Am Magazine is a digital international magazine. It is distributed worldwide. We have about 180,000, and there's Mike
There's
on
Mike.
the magazine. And what we do is we bring your story to the front. We feature different stories. We have contributors that every single month um, fill us with wisdom, drops of wisdom on different subjects, and they collaborate to the magazines. We have, of course, the men's division. We have a ladies' English division and a Spanish magazine as well. And it fills a void there. This is not a subscription-based magazine. Anybody that has access to the internet can click in to our website, choose the magazine. They can even go back to the beginning of every single magazine that we have published, and we published every single month on the first of the month.
Mhm.
So that's who we are. We are a platform for thinkers, for coaches, for leaders that want to deliver a message on a large scale in a worldwide platform. So that's what we deliver every single month. And with that, I was mentioning we have a anthology we're working on, becoming
Mhm.
a decision, and it is indeed about the messy middle, which I love this conversation because it fits just right with what we're doing right now. Big
Yes,
chapter,
and I
yeah,
see it right behind you there, right?
yes, big chapter will be one contributor telling their story about their messy middle. We take them from beginning to end with the coaching. We provide them with every single marketing tool that they need, with the marketing assets. We train them how to use their book in their website so they can also be able to make money from it. And most importantly, we make sure that they go from podcasts and a lot of different interviews to make sure that they're out there and that they can talk about what their chapter is about. And the nice thing is that it's a fraction of the cost of what it would be for you to just publish a book without the additional assets that we're offering. So it's a 20 contributor space, and I only have 10 left. So if you're ready to be out there, you can come and check us out or connect with me, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it because this is an opportunity for you to go international because we're planning to make this an international bestseller. I can guarantee you that.
It will be for sure.
Mhm.
If you have anything to do with it and your sister, it's going to be amazing for sure, Jennifer. Thank you for sharing that and also celebrating Mike being on the cover. And also Eco Sam, she was here, she's here, and she had a feature story.
Mhm.
And she said it changed her life, being able to, I think for people to speak and share their story, to be vulnerable, to be transparent. And that's the richness of your magazine. It really is, Jennifer, of people sharing their struggles, their challenges, and how they overcame it. As Lachelle, you were on there as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, we have to get comfortable with our story.
Mm,
Because, when I think about depression, it looked different for me. I was someone who was still doing a lot of things. My idea of depression was somebody who stays in the bed and doesn't get out of bed. So the fact that I was doing so many things and burning the candle at both ends, it just wasn't on my radar. That's what I was dealing with. So I think it's important to get comfortable sharing your story and helping people to recognize what's going on in this messy middle. If
mm,
we are comparing ourselves to everybody's highlight reels, we're only going to make ourselves feel a lot more worse about ourselves because
yeah.
we're going to say they're having this going on. Something's wrong with me because that definitely isn't my story. I see them being successful. I see their kids not talking back. They're doing their chores or whatever the case is. And so if we're not open around these real things that are happening, then, we're going to make it harder for other people out there who are just observing and watching our lives as we are in the forefront. So it's very important to have these opportunities, whether it's on podcasts or articles, newsletters, magazines, books, and it's very important to shine the light on a lot of things that are happening in the dark.
Yeah. And the dark is that our own self judgments,
Hmm.
our own space in our minds that that tell us what's wrong with us, and we all have that. You know, our mind is here to protect us. Although when we don't really self-check ourselves, as you shared, Lachelle, that depression and being in the hospital for 3 times in a row, then recognizing the pattern, right? It's a pattern, it's a behavior, and then questioning, oh, this keeps happening. How can I shift it just a little? Who can I talk to? How can I share with others in a safe space? Somebody that will appreciate my goldenness, even though we might think it's broken. Yeah. So, it's been so amazing having you both here today. I so appreciate everybody in the audience, Keith coming in, and your sister here, Michelle. She's also here. And Eco Sam, and of course Mike and the Hounds of Business, all the people that shined in today. It's so amazing to have such a lovely community of support. And also, I just want everybody to know how they can reach you, my friends. What's the best way to connect with you, Lachelle? I'll have you go first.
Okay.
I have a banner here for you.
First, I want to thank you so much for having me today. And really, they can Google me because I'm everywhere. I believe I'm a walking billboard around the power of telling your story. So, but yeah, you have my LinkedIn connection. They can connect with me on LinkedIn. And again, just thank you so much for having me. And, you know, this is something this is just a starter to the conversation, I believe.
Sure is.
We have a lot of people who are here watching this live or the replay, and it's a great opportunity for us to kind of open up other conversations around this, start the momentum around talking about hard things, because that's the only way we're going to continue to move past them and to help other people is by shining the light on some of these things.
Yes. And being in that safe space to share, that's so important, where people don't want to fix you, but they will lean in and listen and support you. Yeah. And also, Jennifer, how can people reach you? What's
the best way to reach me is through LinkedIn, of course, Jennifer Thompson, Success Now. And I believe is on the comments. And you can also go to iammagazine.com and look me up there and just connect with me. I'm everywhere, so just reach out, find me. Like the Lachelle, I love stories. And, for me, I believe that everybody has a story, and a story that heals, a story that triumphs. And, is even if you're not ready to share it, I always recommend write it down. Just liberates you. It just does something in your soul that just let it go.
Yes. It's so important, yes, to share. That's part of the healing too. And so for you ladies, what's one key takeaway message you would like our audience to hear before we leave about the messy middle?
I would say that, if you're going to any city or town, construction is showing that there's growth. So the messy middle is nothing but construction, so whether it's in your home, your business, your relationships, it's a sign that you're living and growing. So that would be my final thought.
I love that. The construction is growing. Yeah. How about you, Jennifer? One takeaway for our audience here.
The messy middle is temporary.
Yes.
And remember, after the rain comes out the sun. So
yes, the rain brings rainbows.
Yes.
And those are temporary too, right? And then clouds come in and the sun comes back out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
like waves.
Mm-hmm.
Just prepare to ride them. Love yourself, pamper yourself, talk to yourself kindly.
Mm.
And remember that the universe will give you what you need when you need it. You're just calculating, open your hands and receive it.
Yes. Yes.
love
Thank you. Thank you both so much. Thank you all who are tuning in now, who are watching later. Please share this with anyone you feel that is in the messy middle. Please reach out to Lachelle or Jennifer. These are two amazing women that are here to support you in their own unique ways, as we don't have to go alone with this messy middle, with the messiness, you know. So until next time, keep living with intention, my friends.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Be well.